What is happening on a Thursday night? Welcome into Crafts and Kickoffs, the podcast where we have a beer, a beverage, and we talk some football. It's pretty simple. What are we, week 16 now? The final Crafts and Kickoffs episode before Christmas. So I always ask you, what are you drinking? Let me know. Throw it into the comment section. And tonight, it only seemed like the obvious choice to me. We are 6 days away from Christmas, so I am rolling with a Narragansett Brewery White Christmas. Look at that. It's a little bit of a white Christmas there. Look at that. Fantastic, unbelievable can label. Great stuff. This one's a little bit heavier. 7.4 is the ABV. So 7.4 on the ABV. This is from Narragansett Brewery. White Christmas. It's absolutely fantastic. I will have a sip of it. Here we go. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable beer. It's a winter warmer. I suggest if you like winter warmers to check out White Christmas from Narragansett. It's absolutely fantastic. Merry Christmas to all of you. Again, let me know what you're drinking, and let's get started. Story number 5 this week. Going to go down to Tennessee. Now, I've been in Nashville a couple times. It's a great, great spot. It's a little overcrowded now versus what it used to be years ago. But I've been on Broadway. I've had drinks on Broadway. I have enjoyed myself some Nashville, Tennessee. But down in Tennessee, they love their football. And unfortunately, the Tennessee Titans have a little bit of a situation on their hands. Last offseason, you bring in Brian Callahan, and you think that Brian Callahan, former offensive coordinator of Cincinnati, he did not call the plays in Cincinnati. Zach Taylor calls the plays, but you thought, hey, we're going to bring somebody in that has a hand on offense, and he's the 40-year-old offensive mind. We know NFL owners love bringing in the young offensive mind. So Callahan, he comes in, and Tennessee thought this was kind of to revitalize the organization. They said goodbye to Mike Vrabel. They moved on from him. They gave all the control to the GM. They said, let's do this. Let's bring in a young offensive mind as the head coach, and let's spend some money. They spent all sorts of money. They traded for big names, right? They brought in Tony Pollard. They brought in Calvin Ridley. They brought in L'Jarius Sneed. They brought all of these big-named cats into the Titans organization. And now you press fast forward, and it's a mess. I mean, I think the likely thought was Callahan will at worst help our quarterback. He might not end up being a great head coach. Hopefully he does. But if he doesn't, he at least could help Will Levis, because we believe that Will Levis is going to be that guy. And Will Levis, with supplementing him with the talent, as I mentioned, with Pollard and Ridley, you were hoping, if you're Tennessee, to improve from the 6-11 that you were a year ago. Well, not so much. Tennessee right now is 3-11. It's a wasted season. Will Levis has not been good. He's been a turnover machine. He had not 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions last week. And Tennessee has now decided to bench Will Levis. He is not going to be starting quarterback this weekend for the Titans. I don't think Mason Rudolph is the guy. I'm sure you don't think Mason Rudolph is the guy. So now you look forward, if you're Tennessee, and you try to figure out, how will you handle the quarterback position? If you do believe in Brian Callahan and you believe in his ability to get the most out of a quarterback, and you look at what Levis has done this year, then you believe Levis is not the guy. So you move on from him. You're going to move on from Mason Rudolph unless you keep him as QB2, which you could. But then what do you do at quarterback? And Tennessee's going to have a very difficult situation on their hands, because come draft, a lot of people talk about this being a 2-quarterback draft. If it's even a 2-quarterback draft, you got Cam Ward from Miami, you got Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. Those 2 quarterbacks are the ones that have been talked about an awful lot. Carson Beck had a bad year. Quinn Ewers, questionable. He's been banged up. So you look at the quarterback class. If you have 2 quarterbacks you believe in, here's the bad news for the Tennessee Titans. Vegas and the Giants are worse than you. And it's more likely that those 2 teams will pick those 2 quarterbacks. So if Will Levis is not the guy and you can't draft the guy, what do? I've got an idea. Who do we talk about last week in this space? We talked about Sam Darnold. Do you think Minnesota is going to pay Sam Darnold what he wants? I don't think so. They drafted J.J. McCarthy, right? J.J. McCarthy will be healthy, fingers crossed, if you're Minnesota. And you go into 2025 believing that J.J. McCarthy is going to be your starting quarterback. And yes, you wanted him to be seasoned. You wanted him to develop and learn during his rookie season. Unfortunately, he gets hurt. He misses the entire year. But you have to plan, if you're Minnesota, you have to plan that McCarthy is going to be your guy. So what about Sam Darnold in Tennessee? If Tennessee can't draft their quarterback, if Tennessee doesn't have the quarterback currently on the roster, that only leaves you free agency or a trade. I don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that you're going to trade for. We'll talk about another quarterback later. I don't think anybody's going to want to trade for that quarterback. So Sam Darnold going to the Tennessee Titans would make a lot of sense. Darnold has had a fantastic year in Minnesota. He's going to be looking to get paid. He's going to be looking to get that big deal. And Tennessee is going to be desperate at that position. So I'm looking at Tennessee. I'm looking at Sam Darnold as the possible answer, the possible solution to their quarterback problem. Let me know what you think. The Sam Darnold to Tennessee makes sense. All right, before we get to story number 4, let's hop around here. KJ Bai says, Martin's Barbecue in Nashville. Have you had it? I don't think I've had it. I haven't been in Nashville in a few years. I went to one barbecue place with a buddy. I don't know if it was Martin's. I can tell you that the hot chicken place, the hot chicken wing place, whatever that is, I did not go there either because I don't like spice. I don't like hot wings. But I saw lines like all the way down the street, banana style. My friend Amy, once a year, got my Chick-fil-A peppermint chip milkshake. I think that's the first milkshake on Crafts and Kickoffs. And, of course, it was Amy. Hopefully you enjoy the milkshake. Kevin, spaghetti and Sutton Homes tonight. Nothing crazy. It's all right. You don't have to be crazy. You don't have to go bananas. It's all good. And we got Rob coming in. Said, happy C&K night, Nick. Drinking a Lonely Blonde. Who makes the Lonely Blonde? Let me know. Let me know. And Marilyn, our friend who's watching from the Philippines, it's like, 8:07 in the morning in the Philippines, she tells me she loves the shakes. She loves these shakes that Amy's talking about. Vitalix, I've got my chocolate banana milkshake. It's milkshake night. I'm not drinking a milkshake. I did not anticipate milkshake night 6 nights before Christmas, but here we are. You don't know what's going to happen in Crafts and Kickoffs. We got a lot of milkshake fans in the chat. I'll take my white Christmas. Thank you very much. All right, before we get to story number 2, which is actually story number 4, and Rob says it's Fulton Brewing in Minneapolis. I wonder if my buddy Phil Mackey, who lives in the Minneapolis area, he's a big beer guy. I got to text him about the Fulton Brewing. I'm sure Mackey has been there before. But thanks for the info, Rob. All right, before I get to story number 4, which has to do with a head coach possibly being on the hot seat, don't forget to do a couple things that help us out. Doesn't cost you any money. Doesn't take you a lot of time. Just click that thumbs up button on the YouTube channel. Even if you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on Facebook, I appreciate that as well. If you can matriculate to YouTube to just click that thumbs up button, it would help us. That's how we beat the algorithm. While you're on Facebook, while you're on Twitter, you can also like us as well over there. And also throw a comment in. Are you pro milkshake? Are you pro milkshake on this Thursday night? Let me know what you're drinking as you're watching and or listening to this podcast. What do you think about Sam Darnold to Tennessee once this year is over? So like, comment, and of course, don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to get to 5,500 subscribers. We've got a long way to go, but we're going to get there with all of your help. So like, comment, and subscribe. All right, story number 4. Mike McDaniel. Is Mike McDaniel on the hot seat in Miami? Should he be on the hot seat down in Miami? Miami lost at Houston last week, 20-12. I didn't think the game was as close as the score says it was. Tua Tagovailoa had a brutal week. He had a Will Levis-like week. He had 3 interceptions, passer rating of 60. That ain't going to get it done, Tua. That's not going to get it done. And I wonder whether or not there's some real concern about Tyreek Hill down in Miami. If you look at Tyreek Hill, his 3 seasons prior to this season, from 2021 to 2023, Hill averaged 116 catches, almost 1,600 yards, and 10 touchdowns. If you were walking into 2024 and you're the Dolphins, that's what you expect from Tyreek Hill. You expect 115 catches, 1,600 yards, and 10 touchdowns. So far this year, Tyreek Hill has 67 catches, 805 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And I know what you're going to say. You say, Nick, have you been drinking too much? Did you forget that Tua missed a bunch of games? Tua did miss some games. So let's look at the games that Tua has played and what Tyreek Hill has done in said games. Tyreek Hill, with Tua as his quarterback this year, 53 catches, 665 yards, and 5 touchdowns. If you look at the numbers that Tyreek Hill has had with Tua at quarterback, they would pace out in a 17-game season to around 90 catches, 1,100 yards, and about 8 touchdowns. Still good numbers. I think a lot of teams in the NFL would take 90 catches, 1,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns from a wide receiver, right? You would take that. I know as a Patriots fan and somebody who covers the team, I would certainly take that from any Patriots wide receiver given the last few years. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Tyreek Hill is washed. 90 catches for 1,100 and 8 touchdowns is pretty good. You might even say very good. But no doubt it's also a step back compared to his averages over the last 3 years. He has not been the same receiver, and he has had multiple games where he has just disappeared. So you look at Tyreek Hill, what's happening with him? He's been less explosive. 12 yards per catch. That's the third lowest of his career. Hill turns 31 years old in March. Tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. How much does he have? But I want to look at not only Tyreek Hill, and I'll get to Mike McDaniel. I also want to look at Tua. Tua has always been a quarterback to me that needs everything to work. I've said this from day one. I watched him at Alabama. I've watched his entire NFL career down in Miami, and I have said this from day one. I have been consistent about this. Tua Tagovailoa needs everything to be perfect around him. He needs great weapons to throw to. He needs a good offensive line. He needs to be able to get rid of the football in under 2.5 seconds. He needs an offensive coordinator that can scheme things that make him feel comfortable. Tua needs great weather, great weapons, great coordinatorship, if that's a word. That's what Tua needs. And if something falls by the wayside, Tua is not the same guy. So Tyreek Hill right now is not the same guy. Tua's struggling. Jalen Waddle goes out. He gets banged up last week. Tua throws 3 picks. Tua needs everything to be perfect. But it's not just Tua. Tua Tagovailoa is a microcosm of the Dolphins in the bigger picture, because the Dolphins also feel like a team that needs everything to go right. If the Dolphins aren't playing in great weather, watch out, right? They struggle in cold weather. They struggle with the elements. They struggle with physical football teams. They made the playoffs. They got waxed in the playoffs. Mike McDaniel, meanwhile, is 3-15 against teams that are above 500 in his coaching career. He's 3-15. The Dolphins are 3-15 with Mike McDaniel as the head coach against teams that are better than 500. Miami just doesn't beat good teams. They do not beat good teams. 3-15 is wretched. They should be better than that. So you got a quarterback that needs everything to be perfect. Your number one wide receiver has taken a step back this year. Your head coach has not proven to win the important games and the biggest challenges. He has not proven that. You get out physicaled, and you have to ask the question, with a 3-15 record against teams above 500, could this be it for Mike McDaniel? I'm not going to write off that possibility. Now, if it's me, I would likely give him one more year, but he has a very short leash in 2025. And it's funny how quickly things can change. You go back a couple of years ago when Mike McDaniel first took over down in Miami, everybody was singing McDaniel's praises and talking about that offense. Now you fast forward and you look at that record against teams above 500, and you look at Tua, who has struggled against good teams, and when things aren't perfect, And maybe people got too far ahead with Mike McDaniel. Maybe we got a little too far ahead with him. But I think you give it one last ride before you blow it up. All right. Before I get to story number 3, I ask you, what are you drinking tonight? I'm drinking White Christmas from Narragansett Brewery. It's a winter warmer. 7.4 is the ABV. Welcome into the party if you're just joining us, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. We do this every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern live. That's what we do. It's a party. You have a beverage, and we talk football. My guy John jumps in. John Callahan says, eggnog. So he's going with the eggnog tonight. I love eggnog. I don't know if eggnog loves me. Yeah, not sure. Not sure if eggnog loves me. Lactose, stuff like that. Not always great for the system. Anyway, let's get to story number 3. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions, one of the best teams in football. You could argue the Lions have been the best team in football. Tremendous talent. Dan Campbell sets the tone for his team. I don't know if you saw the interview that he did with Detroit radio this week, but my man is out there and he is telling everybody within an earshot of him that we're not worried about these injuries. We're not going to build excuses. We're going to keep winning. That's the goal. And you got to love that from a head coach who's not making excuses. They were the preseason favorites. Right now, they're the number 1 seed in the NFC. They're 12-2. They've had a terrific season. But there is a problem, and it's a big problem. Detroit is going through the craziest rash of injuries that I have seen a team go through. It's nuts. Ian Rappaport posted this week, the challenges keep coming for the Lions defense. Aleem McNeil, hopefully I pronounced that right, defensive lineman, suffered torn ACL, done for the season. Carlton Davis, cornerback they brought in from Tampa during the offseason, fractured his jaw. He's out for 6 weeks. Adam Schefter, running back David Montgomery, out indefinitely after suffering an MCL injury during the loss to the Bills. Ari Meirov, by the way, who's from the 33rd team. Listen to this. This is what Meirov tweeted. The Lions all-injury defense. I want you to listen to this because I think some people, they believe that media suffer from hyperbole, and I'm here to tell you that there are a lot of people in the media, especially in 2024, that suffer from hyperbole. Gets a little hyperbolic from time to time. But when we talk about Detroit and these injuries, this is no joke. I mean, this is crazy. Defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, who was off to the best start of his career. I think he would have been the defensive player of the year if he stayed healthy, which I had as a prop bet before the season kicked off. And yes, I was very angry when he went down with the injury because I was going to make some pretty decent money on that prop bet. I think he was playing like the defensive player of the year. He was dominating football games. Aiden Hutchinson, out. McNeil, out. Another defensive tackle, John Kaminsky, out. Defensive end, Marcus Davenport, out. So you lost Hutchinson and Davenport, both edge players. Your linebacker room. Here are the linebackers that have been hurt. Derek Barnes, hurt. Alex Anzalone, hurt. Malcolm Rodriguez, hurt. Jalen Reeves-Maben, hurt. You want to go to cornerback? I just mentioned Carlton Davis, hurt. Ennis Rakestraw, hurt. Safety, Ifeatu Melifonwu, hurt. All of those guys have been hurt. All of those guys are just absolutely smashed with injury. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. That is, let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That is 11 defensive players. 11 pivotal defensive players from this Lions team, all hurt in the same season. If you're a fan of an NFL team, and you are, if you're watching this podcast, if you're listening to us, I don't want to hear anybody cry about injuries when the Lions are going through this, when the Lions have been just a mash unit, and they're still 12-2, top seed in the NFC. Says an awful lot about that coaching staff, says an awful lot about those players that are still out there playing their tuchus off. I mean, this is an all-time injury run in the NFL. Good luck to Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator. He's highly thought of, might be a head coach next year, but good luck to him with all those injuries. You want to talk about constant shuffling. I hear Patriots fans angry about, Jawan Bentley. Jawan Bentley, the linebacker, as if that was the downfall of the Patriots defense. I like Bentley. He's not that important, okay? He's important, but he ain't that important. And it's tough for me to hear somebody who's a fan of a team say, yeah, but this guy got hurt. When you're looking at the Lions, everybody's getting hurt. It's crazy. And Campbell's trying to lead this team with tone as he usually does. I think it's working. They could still be the 1 seed. I mean, you got Philadelphia and Minnesota. They're both 12-2. But the final 3 games, Detroit has a shot. I mean, they got to play at Chicago. Even injured, they should have a great shot at beating the Bears. They got to play at the 49ers. You want to talk about another team that's going through all sorts of injuries. Came out today that Trent Williams is unlikely to play the rest of the season. San Francisco has gone through it with Ayuk and McCaffrey and Trent Williams. So Detroit plays at Chicago, at San Francisco, and then they get a very tough game in Detroit against the Vikings in the final week of the season. That game could not only mean the division, but it could also possibly mean the NFC 1 seed. Lots of pressure on this offense. With all those injuries on the defense, lots of pressure on Jared Goff, lots of pressure on Ben Johnson, lots of pressure on those guys to help carry this football team. So there's a lot going on. Nelson, Merry Christmas, Nick. Sitting here with a Bud Light Platinum. Bud Light. I had Bud Light Platinum when it first came out. I think I had like 1 or 2 of them. I don't think I've had Bud Light Platinum since. It's not that I didn't like it. I don't even remember how it tasted. And taste buds change. I haven't had a Bud Light Platinum in forever. But Merry Christmas, Nelson. Thank you. Jumping in with a super chat. $10 super chat from Charlie. Von Trapp Lager tonight. Lager? No, Lager. Von Trapp Lager tonight. Vermont, best craft beers in New England, hands down, in my opinion. Cheers to everyone. Cheers to you, Charlie. I appreciate you, as always. I'm drinking a White Christmas from Narragansett Brewery. It's a winter warmer. 7.4 is the ABV. Sláinte. And thank you for the $10 super chat, Charlie. It is very much appreciated. Before I get to story number 2, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Help the channel out. Every little thing that you can do to help the channel means an awful lot for me. And I got to tell you, I appreciate every single one of you in your support of this program, of this channel. If you happen to be a Patriots fan as well and you watch my stuff on the Patriots Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I can't thank you enough. Story number 2. You want to talk about injuries? How about Patrick Mahomes? I want to ask you a question. Throw a comment in. If you were the Chiefs, would you be starting Mahomes on Saturday? Now, he suffered a high ankle sprain against Cleveland. That dude got bended like he was bent like Gumby. It's brutal. Dude got all twisted up like a pretzel. High ankle sprain against Cleveland, but he's expected to play Saturday against the Texans. If you were the Chiefs, would you play Patrick Mahomes on Saturday? Because that's what the Chiefs are planning to do. It's a fascinating decision. It's a short week, right? You played on Sunday. Now you play on Saturday. So you have a short week. And that means that Mahomes lost a day of rehab and treatment. So that's something to keep an eye on. You have a 2-game lead on Buffalo. You've got a 2-game lead on the Buffalo Bills. Now, of course, Kansas City knows that Buffalo plays the Patriots 2 out of 3 times to finish this season. And you have to believe that the Bills will win both of those games against the Patriots. So Kansas City knows that 2-game lead might not be as safe as some people may believe that it is. But you have a 2-game lead on Buffalo. Your franchise quarterback has a high ankle sprain. And you have a short week to deal with it. You also have a left tackle situation that has been very sketchy. Joe Thuney, who is a left guard, has been playing left tackle at times. It came out today that DJ Humphries is going to be out of this game. The Chiefs went out and signed Humphries a couple of weeks ago from the scrap heap because Wanye Morris was not doing a good enough job. They drafted Kingsley Suamataia in the 2nd round. He has been dreadful when given an opportunity. So now the Chiefs are left playing their left guard at left tackle. And when you look at Houston, Houston's no joke. I mean, you got Danielle Hunter and you've got Will Anderson on the edges. It's a very difficult pass rush to deal with off the edge. And so if you play Tooney at left tackle this weekend, you might have some problems. Now, you played Tooney last week. You got Myles Garrett and company in Cleveland, but this could be a different kind of animal. And with all of that, short week, high ankle sprain, 2-game lead over Buffalo. Your left tackle situation is sketchy. Then you have to think the next game for the Chiefs is on Christmas. So the Chiefs are going to end up playing 3 games in 11 days, which, by the way, is ridiculous. The NFL, enough of the, we care about player safety BS. When you are having these guys out there playing NFL-level competition, 3 games in 11 days, you don't care about health and safety. Give me a freaking break. Nobody should be, told to play 3 games in 11 days. When you talk about football, that to me is nuts. 3 games in 11 days is egregious. The Chiefs have to play 3 games in 11 days. They played on Sunday. They're playing on Saturday. Then they play Wednesday on Christmas. So you've got your quarterback with a high ankle sprain, and you're going to ask him to play 3 games in 11 days. You're going to ask him to play, 2 games in 4 days, 4 or 5 days, right? Saturday and then Wednesday. I would not play Patrick Mahomes. Now, obviously the Chiefs feel like he's going to be okay, and I'm sure Mahomes is likely to be okay. But me personally, if I was Andy Reid, I would not take that risk because I know I have to come back and play Wednesday. And I don't want to put Patrick Mahomes in the situation where he's playing 2 games between Saturday and freaking Wednesday night. That to me is a bit much to ask. And I'm sure Mahomes is pushing back and wants to play. I get it. But I would err on the side of caution, and I'd give him some extra days. You got to play, I think it's the Steelers. You got to play the Steelers in Pittsburgh on Wednesday. So I would not pull the trigger on Mahomes and play him this weekend, but sounds like the Chiefs are going to do it. What do you think? My guy Vitalik says, don't start him. But as a Pats fan, start him. Oh, that's not nice. All right, let's jump to story number 1. Story number 1. Had to take a sip of the White Christmas. 6 days away from Christmas. Merry Christmas to y'all. All right, story number 1. The Atlanta Falcons have benched Kirk Cousins. We talked about Cousins a couple of weeks ago, and I said I would give Cousins an opportunity to turn it around because he had a hot streak right before a 3-game cold streak. And so I would have given Cousins another game or 2. That's what Atlanta did. They gave him another game or 2, and it didn't work out. Cousins did not turn things around. Over his last 5 games as the starting quarterback for Atlanta, Cousins had 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions. I'll say it again for the people in the back. 1 touchdown, 9 picks. Kirk Cousins, literally worst quarterback in football the last 5 weeks. He's been that bad. And so Atlanta said enough is enough. They're starting Michael Penix. And in hindsight, you look at it, it was obviously an awful decision to sign Kirk Cousins. This backfired tremendously for the Falcons. And you could have predicted some of this. He's 35 years old. He's coming off of an Achilles. Aaron Rodgers has not been the same guy either after the Achilles. So that was a very risky move by Atlanta. They felt like they needed to make that move because they had no answers at quarterback. But that contract and that decision to sign Kirk Cousins has backfired. Kirk Cousins got $90 million guaranteed. $90 million guaranteed. And he was the worst quarterback in football for the last month plus. $90 million guaranteed. That's a lot of skidoo. In 2025, you're looking at a $40 million cap hit with $65 million in dead money. So that contract, it's an issue. Now, the Falcons do have a contractual out after next season. Does that mean they bring back Cousins? I don't know. I don't think you can trade Cousins. With how bad he has been, and with that Achilles, and him being in his mid-30s, and he's never been a super trait guy, right? I mean, you look at Cousins, he doesn't have top-end traits. He's a great story, but he's accurate when he's good. He's got some pretty good IQ on him. We talk about football IQ, but he doesn't have a Matthew Stafford arm. He doesn't have Josh Allen athleticism. He's not a big guy. So I don't think any team is going to be jumping at the chance to trade for Kirk Cousins. The Falcons are stuck with him, I think. But let's say one thing about Kirk Cousins, and I have said this from day one. I worked down in Virginia Beach when the Commanders drafted RG3 and Kirk Cousins in that same draft, right? So I watched a lot of Kirk Cousins. I watched the beginning of his career. I watched a lot of Kirk Cousins, a lot. I've said this from day one. No matter how you feel about Kirk Cousins on the football field, there is no denying that my guy is the best businessman that has ever walked the planet when you talk professional athletes. He's especially the best guy in the NFL. There is nobody in the NFL. Darrelle Revis was pretty good, but there is nobody that has played the business game better than Kirk Cousins. Just outrageous. How good? I'll tell you how good. This is from Robert Littal from Black Sports Online. He posted this. If this is the end of Cousins, he will end with a career record of 83, 74, and 2. 83, 74, and 2 is Kirk Cousins' all-time record. He has one playoff win. 13-year NFL career, one playoff win with a career record of 83, 74, and 2. I want you to guess. Throw it in the comment section. How much money has Kirk Cousins earned in his NFL career? Don't cheat. How much money do you think? Career earnings for Kirk Cousins. How much money do you think he's brought in? How much? I'll give you 5 seconds to comment. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How much money? Looks like it's a little draggy here, huh? Not great. So Rob says 8 years, $249 million. Vitalik says, Vitalik jumps in and says more than Brady. Amy says $300 million. Charlie says $330 million. Amy and Charlie are the closest. Kirk Cousins, even though he has a career record of 83, 74, and 2, even though Kirk Cousins has one single solitary playoff win, he has earned $321 million. $321 million. Kirk Cousins and his agent, and Rob points out that Mike McCartney is his agent. Mike McCartney, you want to talk about being an unbelievable agent. That guy, Kirk Cousins, should build a statue of his agent and put the statue in front of his house, in front of his gigantic, ridiculous house. Build a statue for your agent. Over $300 million earned in his career with one playoff win and a record of 83, 74, and 2. That's bananas. Back to the Falcons. I hated the Michael Penix pick. It now might work out because Cousins was so awful. I don't think that's a great thing for the Falcons, right? It's not great that you had to go to Michael Penix in Penix's rookie season because you just paid Cousins $90 million guaranteed. So it's not great. The pick might work out because you need Penix now. But the fact that you need Penix is not good because it means you just spent all of that money on a quarterback that didn't do enough for you. So the Penix pick might work. What's interesting is Michael Penix now, he parachutes in to, a playoff hunt. Atlanta is 7-7. They're one game back of Tampa. I don't think Penix can play worse than Kirk Cousins. That's the good news. I don't see Michael Penix throwing one touchdown and 9 picks, the next 3 games. So I think it's an upgrade at quarterback because Cousins was so bad the last month or so. So that's the good news. But this is really difficult because he's parachuting in. You're one game back in the division. You're 7-7. You're not going to make the playoffs unless you win the division. So you've got to make a run here. You probably have to win all 3 games if you're Penix. Because right now, Tampa is 8-6. So you're probably looking at having to win all 3 games if you're Penix, if you want to get into the playoffs. And obviously, that would be a hell of a story if that happened. But it's going to be difficult because when you look at the Buccaneers' schedule, they play at Dallas this weekend, then they play the Panthers in Tampa, and they play the Saints in Tampa. So literally, the Buccaneers play 3 of the worst teams in the NFL to finish out the season. So, I mean, even if Tampa slips up for one of those 3 games, they finish the year at 10-7, which means Atlanta has to run the table to finish at 10-7. So Atlanta pretty much has to win all 3 games here with Michael Penix at quarterback. It's a big challenge, but he's going to be better than Kirk Cousins. And the good news for Penix is that just like Tampa, it's not necessarily a really difficult schedule for Atlanta. And it's a great spot for Penix's first start because he's playing in Atlanta this weekend against the New York Giants, and the Giants stink out loud. Giants are going to get the first pick, I think. I've said that for a while now. I think the Giants end up with the top pick in the draft. So you play the Giants in Atlanta this weekend. That should be a good matchup for the Falcons and Michael Penix. And then in week 18, you host Carolina. And Carolina, they'll be out of it. They're already out of it, but they'll be done. A lot of guys, I would imagine, will be thinking about vacationing at that point. In the middle, you got Washington. So Atlanta does have to play at Washington. But it's possible. It's possible that the Falcons win all 3 games here with Michael Penix. That obviously should be favored in the Giants game. They should obviously be favored week 18 at home against Carolina. The more difficult task is at Washington week 17. So can they win that game? They've got to win all 3, I think, and then hope Tampa kind of, slips and falls. But it's going to be very difficult. You know what's not difficult? Drinking a White Christmas from Narragansett Brewery. It is a fantastic beer. I can't help but thank all of you who have joined us during the first 16 weeks of this season now. I wish all of you a Merry Christmas. Be safe. Have fun. Enjoy the time with your families. Enjoy the drinks. Enjoy the festivities. Enjoy the food. Live it up. Merry Christmas to every single one of you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to help this channel out, to help this show. But I wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. We will be back next Thursday night, 7 p.m., live right here, as we do during this football season with Crafts and Kickoffs. Until then, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, and all that kind of stuff. Be well.